All right. Welcome to All Airdrops Are Farmed at TE Academy. Today we'll discuss airdrops, the state of airdrops today, how they are gamed, what we can do to prevent it, and mark the question, why would we want to prevent it, and maybe why not? And we'll discuss all this with Ori. I'm super happy, Ori, that you're joining us today. We met basically because I came across an article by Joel John on airdrops. I dropped this article at the chat as well. It's really worth reading. And he introduced us actually, Ori. And yeah, we started having a discussion on your point of view, why your experience, and also what you think can be improved in crypto. And this is what we'd like to discuss today. Before I hand over the mic to you, just to let everyone know, we are super open to questions. Just drop them in the chat or switch on your mic. This should be an interactive session. Let's have a conversation. And whenever you need a clarification or have a comment, let's just discuss it. All right, Ori,
okay. Cool.
Let's kick it off.
Sure. Yeah. Hey everyone, and yeah, thank you for coming to listen to me rant about airdrops. And thank you for inviting me. Let me get started by introducing myself. So quickly about me and my path in crypto. I came into crypto in 2020. I was doing masters in international management, and I was looking for a summer internship. When the COVID hit, all of the internships were basically gone because, yeah, long story short, all of them were gone. And I was thinking about how, yeah, what industries are remote first, and I naturally gravitated towards crypto. I had some experience in 2017, but like most of the people, I've made some money, lost it all, and kind of forgot about it. But then when I got back in 2020, I was kind of blown away. It was so-called DeFi summer at the time. I was blown away by the progress that the whole industry made, and that there are actual products on the blockchain, not just tokens with the questionable utility and questionable promise of the future. Yeah, anyways, I was working and kind of buying random shitcoins and just feeling the market. At the time, I was quite broke, so I couldn't even use the DeFi on Ethereum. And I think the point at which everything clicked for me was when the Binance Smart Chain launched, because yeah, I could finally use lending products. And honestly, I was excited as a child. I was showing, at the time I was living in a dorm in my university, and I was showing my my roommate how easy it is to borrow money. Anyway, yeah, pretty much at this time, I've decided that I'm going to stick with crypto, and I'll try to make a career out of it. Well, I wasn't putting any labels on it, but yeah. So at that time, I was, like I said, I was buying shitcoins, losing money, and I was fortunate enough to stumble upon CoinList, and I think they had the Flow sale, which is a layer 1 blockchain, and they had a unique kind of a possibility to invest in a seed round at the prices of Andreessen Horowitz, for example. So, and I invested, I think I put in like 1K or something, and that's the first time I got familiar with what Sybil attack is. I was kind of trying to do my due diligence, and in this way, it brought me, while doing it, I kind of found a couple of Russian and Russian-speaking communities on Telegram. And this is pretty much the first time I saw people talking about like creating multiple accounts to get a better allocation and so on and so forth. But anyway, Flow turned out to be a great hit. And it was, I think, the first time that I thought, interesting. So that's how people make money. But during that time, I was mostly losing money, and I was DCAing into shitcoin of choice out of spite. I was a complete newbie. And when I realized, when finally the bull run started, I sold everything. Like in 2021, I sold everything at breakpoint, at the break even, and I saw my positions run up to, well, my potential positions run up to like 100x. And I decided that I'm a terrible trader and that I will try to find another way to make it in crypto. And that brought my attention to testnets, to various community programs. So I've enrolled into Genesis, Mina Genesis program, which is basically like a testnet competition where you run a validator and then depending on your performance, you get rewarded. But nevertheless, it's also one of the activities that was like a potential, even though that one was hard, it was another place where I saw lots of people trying to make extra accounts and kind of farm out the max of the rewards. Anyways, at that time, I was just getting a hang of crypto. I built a little bit of portfolio. I was no longer priced out of Ethereum, and I've started exploring Ethereum DeFi. And randomly, I think through Andre Cranier tweet, I found this group called Inverse Finance, and they were basically starting a DAO. And I filled in an application. They were looking for like core members of the DAO, I think 80 people. And I literally filled in an application and forgot about it. And then a couple of months later, lo and behold, my surprise, when I found out that my tokens are worth like 80K or something. And that was pretty much my first airdrop. And yeah, nevertheless, it even ran up to like 300K, but I sold everything immediately. And I was very much happy with that. Yeah, anyways, long story short, I've lost most of my money in spring 2021. And I kind of took a step back, and I was at a crossroads whether I should stick with crypto or go into like consulting, like more traditional careers. I decided to stick with crypto, and I built out a small team that was mostly consulting projects that are on pre-token launch, consulting in a sense, building out community initiatives, pretty much generating hype and doing marketing and trying to involve community into it. And I think right around that time, I think like places like CoinList were the #1 thing to kind of build, because I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with CoinList sales, but the way it works is basically you get an allocation that is pretty much guaranteed to print you money. So your goal is very simple, is to get as many of those, as many allocations as possible. And while I was happy with my airdrop, I saw people like gaming the queue system on the Casper sale, and I saw one person basically getting the whole allocation, like I think 40 or 20 or 30% for himself, profiting more than a couple $millions. And I also have a funny video from that time. I'm not sure. What do you think? Should we?
Let's watch it. I can enable screen share. But before we dig into that, and I would love to see and explore more about, okay, how does it actually work? We can open the floor for some questions. And I have a first one. I mean, you obviously started with trading as first activity, as far as I understood, and then said, okay, can I somehow, or you accidentally stumbled into airdrops, it felt. And then you decided to go for marketing consultancy. Why that?
Yeah, okay. I realized that I may be a little bit all over the place. And so I started with trading, but it was mostly to spend my salary on. I wasn't really making money, but so
I mean, that I see a connection. I do see a connection. I didn't want to say that it's all over the place. Rather, maybe you can elaborate on a little bit.
No, yeah. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to remember that time period. But basically, yeah. I think at the time, also Uniswap airdrop happened, and then when I saw that, I was a little bit blown away. I think that was the first airdrop that I've seen. And I also saw a lot of discussions about, well, 1inch might do something like that. And I was like, oh, no way. They're just going to, like, it's so obvious. Everyone's going to, well, like make a lot of wallets. But lo and behold, they did. And that's where kind of the switch happened when I thought, okay, trading is actually kind of brutal, and maybe it's not for me. And I was trying to find ways, maybe like community programs or airdrops or like testnet programs. And at the time, I think airdrops were not as hyped. And so I didn't even see it as a viable way to make it in crypto. And even when I got into like inverse finance and got like 80K out of nothing for the filling of the Google form, basically. Even then, I thought it was just one lucky thing. And most of my attention was focused at the time on the coin lists, because I saw people like making lots of money there, and I was trying to recruit all my friends to make accounts, my family, well, pretty much sibling, yeah. But then the dump happened, and unfortunately, as I was quite inexperienced at the time, I almost got wiped out. It was kind of hard, especially like I was a broke student, then I got a lot of money, and then I got broke again, and that's why. And I was at the crossroads, so I didn't know whether I should go into a more traditional career or stick with crypto, and at the same time, in crypto, the state of my portfolio was quite well, it was quite sad. So I wanted to find a way to make crypto kind of like my day-to-day thing, and hence the community programs. Actually, the way it came to be, the marketing consultancy, is I participated in an ambassador program of Covalent, I think, and I've met with a lot of cool people that we are friends to this day. And after running this program and basically scaling it from just 10 people to 3K people, we thought, well, maybe we actually have something here. And there were a lot of ambassador programs popping up. And yeah, that's basically how we decided to engage with projects by trying to provide a service. But I think it was, at the time, it was like summer 2021. And I think DYDX airdrop happened. And DYDX was probably one of the, oh, sorry, I kind of went on a rant. Should we address the questions?
Okay, keep it in mind. DYDX airdrop, we'll get back to it. For now, any questions?
Yeah, hello, Laurie. It's a pleasure to meet you. So I have a question regarding airdrops themselves. You just mentioned, well, once you have the situation in which you immediately sell off like 80K of an airdrop or 300K, well, that's usually like 90% of the behavior that we've seen from airdrop farmers. They don't really have much interest in the protocol nor its utility. They just want to have a quick profit. And since you're a marketing consultant, right? So using airdrop is a strategy for marketing budget, right? It's a way for attracting new users into the platform. Yeah. So my question will be regarding that. How you, as a marketing strategist, consultant, well, what would you recommend for a protocol to incentivize users within airdrops, but at the same time keeping them related to the community?
Right. Okay. Well, that's a huge question, and I will definitely address it. How about this? I'll finish like the chronological order of things, and I'll get back to your question on why protocols do the airdrops and what I think could be done different, and why the things are the way they are. And yeah, so coming back to DYDX, yeah, I think that was one of the biggest airdrops in crypto to date in terms of rewards per participant. And
2021, right?
Yeah, 2021. I think it started trading in September or something like that. And I think that was the time when I saw this kind of a change in, I just started noticing airdrop farming, or like just talking about airdrops across all of my communities. Everyone been feeling a little bit of FOMO. And with regards to DYDX, there was also an interesting case of someone who could be an insider, and I think he was, who farmed like $45 million worth of airdrop. And yeah, so, and at the time I was also kind of growing into my role in crypto, and I was finding new people joining more close-knit communities. And I think what the next big airdrop, or sort of big, at least from my perspective, was the Beconomy. And the funny thing, they made a mistake in JavaScript code, and instead of so they were supposed to drop like 550 tokens plus 5 tokens, but instead of it being a plus, it added up as a one whole number, so it was like 5,555 tokens. So basically, because of the mistake in the code, I've seen people make upwards of 300, 500K from this single airdrop. And at the time, I was still doing my thing with the marketing consultancy. I was designing a program for Goldfinch Finance Flight Academy, and I was busting my balls, basically, kind of putting in the hours. And it kind of came to me like, the question arose, like, what am I even doing? Why am I doing this? And like, do you want to, and I remembered this phrase, which is, do you want to be right or do you want to make money? And since then, I kind of committed to testing protocols and from multiple wallets. But yeah, actually, I haven't made that much from the airdrops, unfortunately, because I've joined the party pretty late. But anyway, I think 2022, where it started, the airdrop game started to evolve, especially when Hop Protocol released their Anticipal program, which is basically they used community to hunt Sibils. And actually, to date, I think it was one of the best campaigns for anti-Sibiling that I've ever seen, but we'll get back to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sorry, you wanted to say something, Angela? No, I was just asking for, can you drop a link or so, but we'll get back to it. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll drop all the links. Yeah. Yeah, anyways, and then optimism happened, and they also kind of set a trend with multipliers where they divide the airdrop. Well, they devise a criteria, and then they kind of multiply between each others, which was supposedly to help against the Sibyl attacks. And I think by the time this all happened, all of my circles, all of my information, kind of places where I take information from, everything was about airdrops, and it still is. All right, now kind of, and this pretty much takes us to the current time with Arbitrum airdrop, which they decided to also make kind of very inclusive and didn't worry too much about Sibyl attacks, and just, yeah, gave the tokens to everyone. Now, why projects do the airdrops, and to address Tiago's question, I think it's not, it's, the problem is multifold, basically. So why the projects do airdrops? First of all, I think first and foremost, it's to gather the attention. Like, good example of it could be like Aptos airdrop, which I'm 90% certain they decided to do overnight, and they devised the criteria overnight. But let me find the numbers, one sec. So at the day of the airdrop, before the announcement, Aptos had like about 30K mentions on Twitter. And as soon as they announced the airdrop and the distribution started, the number, I think, was about 300 or 400K mentions. So it was basically 10x. So of course, the first is the attention. Of course, it's the additional liquidity, it's justification of the project's value, and the appreciation of community. Like, if the project is discussed, like, since we're all trading attention, not fundamentals, really, in crypto, it's of the paramount importance. Then the second one is the legal problems, and this is pretty clear. Like, you can't sell tokens to the retail or risk angering the SEC. And, well, the last but not least, it's kind of like good manners. Every project is expected to reward their community. And now coming back to, like, to your question, Tiago, I don't think anyone is under any illusion about airdrop hunters and what they do, like that they sell the tokens right away. I think for the projects of scale, of Arbitrum scale, or like CUA Aptos, take any big infrastructure project, first of all, they have to show that they're sufficiently decentralized, and they do that by distributing the token as large as to as many holders as possible. And the sad thing is that there are simply not that many users in crypto, and one way or the other, they have to distribute it to Sibils because, because they want to show that they have a lot of legitimate users to their venture capitalists to raise the next round. And it actually creates this symbiotic, almost parasitic relationship between the Sibillers and the projects and the VCs. So while I think from maybe like a long-term perspective, it may not be like the greatest idea to just give out the tokens to airdrop farmers. It seems to me that most of the time, the downside to kind of trying to make sure that the Sibillers are filtered, the downside is much larger for the project because they're risking, like, it's, to be honest, like, if you know what you're doing, it's impossible to detect Sibils on chain. It's simply impossible. There are many attempts. There were like attempts by Hop protocol where they did like a pattern matching and so on and so forth. But people adjust, and it will just be an inevitable race. And the project is always in a tougher spot because they risk cutting off legitimate people and creating a negative PR ahead of what's probably the most important event for any project token launch. And also they simply just don't care that much. They just want to distribute it as wide as possible. So they just close their eyes on Sibils. And every campaign, every anti-Sibyl campaign, namely like Paraswap and Hop, they turned out to be a complete fiasco for the project. You can just look up the token price.
Ori, may I ask a question? Yeah, I have some, and sure you guys have some too. Get ready while I ask my first one. You said it's a symbiotic, maybe even malicious, or not malicious, but can be a bad, in the long run, bad relationship between the projects, the community / airdrop farmers and VCs. Now I wonder, of course, for the project in the first place, it feels like airdrops don't cost, but actually they do. If people start dumping, then in the aftermath, who is paying for it? Is it, I mean, if you have liquidity mining, it would be the retail users buying the token who I don't know, didn't benefit from the airdrops, or market makers. And I mean, they are not happy with being dumped. So I wonder how airdrops then finally, where the circle is closed in terms of who pays.
I think it's actually pretty simple. Aside from I'm not going to go into like maybe Arbitrum or like other very well-established projects because it feels like there's a lot of organic demand there anyway. But I feel like the general playbook is to drop an airdrop, make it low float. Well, I mean, like make the total supply low float, pump it, buy the bags. Like it ends up, I think what ends up happening is the team has dedicated some of the money for like pumpamentals, and what usually happens is, they distribute the airdrop, they take the sell pressure, then they kind of pump out the price, and then start to distribute it with the unlocks of the venture capitalists, where they theoretically make the money back. Does that make sense? I think it doesn't. So generally what happens, like the project drops like 5% or 7.5% of the supply. The reason they do this is what I've said before, and they simply don't have any other choice. And here the tokenomics come into play, where there's like a very low float, so the potential for fully diluted valuation is very high. And I think every project has like couple, like, I don't know how much, but money set aside for the market making or like pumpamentals and Yeah, so it comes from the VCs basically, and they hopefully make it back with the unlocks. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so where were we?
More questions, maybe? Other questions?
Yeah, maybe
All
I
right.
can ask a question.
Sure.
I was wondering, like, if there's any resource for the kind of data you need to study, like what happens in typical projects after they release an airdrop. Like, I would like to know, is there like a resource where like someone studied this deeply?
Yeah,
From
some
a
of
data
that.
science perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the so-called airdrop fractal, what's usually described like the price action after the airdrop, it's been extensively written about on Twitter, and of course now it slightly changes because everyone is aware of the market dynamics. But yeah, I think your best bet, I can't say anything from the top of my head, but your best bet is Twitter for sure. Okay, cool. So
More questions? No. Okay, let's go ahead. Sorry. Ori?
sure. Yeah, I'm thinking, should we go? What do you guys want to discuss more? On just how the projects approach Anticipal attackers and how they have, how, for example, Hope and like Moonbirds and others try to defend against them, or do you want to talk about more about how airdrop farmers choose the projects they want to target? And
Both. And we still have 60 minutes, so I think we can cover both.
sure, okay. All right, so let's talk about, take a step back and think and talk about what projects are actually worth kind of farming and how people choose them. It's actually very, very simple. It's from my whole time in crypto, I've realized one thing when it comes to airdrops, it's always better to have a small cut of a large pie than a large cut of a small pie. And what I mean by that is, of course, mastodons such as Arbitrum, Optimism, Aptos, whatever, they simply have they're simply very, very well-funded projects that command very high valuation, and even like 10% of the supply is like $1 billion. And it just doesn't happen with the smaller scale projects. Plus, smaller scale projects have a lot less data to work with. And I mean, the data set is much, much smaller. So they can almost manually kind of check and choose who is reliable and who is not, who is very suspicious and who is not. And of course, when you have like 2.2 million addresses like Arbitrum did, it's well, it's almost unfeasible, I think. And yeah, and so the first criteria is I think always the amount of money raised, not even evaluation, but like hard cash. Because the assumption is that some of that cash is set aside to market make and support the price and basically buy out the airdrop pressure. Second of all, is the second criteria, it's has to do with the type of project. So most of the time it makes sense to target infrastructure projects, once again, for the similar kind of reason as the first one, just because infrastructure usually commands much, much higher valuation. And even now I work at one protocol as a head of marketing, and all of my efforts are focused at kind of changing the branding and changing the positioning of us from protocol to infrastructure and to being like liquidity layer and whatnot. Yeah, and I think third, I actually don't have a third at the moment. Slipped my mind.
This protocol versus infrastructure, I would have said, okay, protocol is infrastructure, but obviously there's something you say that drives a better valuation. Just
yeah, no, I agree. Like, well, anything built on blockchain is a protocol, right? Or like the blockchain itself is a protocol, right?
But then there are applications, typical, or some call themselves marketplaces, and you say infrastructure.
Yeah, but by oh, I see the hand raised. By infrastructure, I mean basically layer ones, bridges,
Mhm. Key management, or is this?
No, key management. I don't think it's such a big area.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like projects like EigenLayer, for example, or like modular blockchain like Celestia, and yeah, it's just a variety of layers and basically base layers. Yeah.
Okay.
I see Mario's holding hand up. Do you want to go ahead?
Yes, I have one thing that maybe helps, because at first you said that the money behind is true, but also, for example, the total value lock in the network maybe also helps to check if an airdrop can have a huge amount of rewards. I don't know.
Sorry, what is the question? I used.
Yes, that you were saying like the things that you look behind an airdrop, if it can have a huge reward, I think, no?
Oh yeah.
So
No, yeah. Oh, sorry. I understood the question.
Okay.
So of course, like TVL and like this, just any other metric of success is also plays a role, of course. But at the same time, not a single project launches without like a huge VC backing launches at like 10 billion FDV, right? No matter the traction, and those layer ones keep popping up, and it's always the same. And yeah, I feel like no sane project can afford to support a valuation of 1 billion, 10 billion plus, even if they're sort of successful. So I think, yeah, the success metrics, like with Arbitrum, for example, Arbitrum actually didn't raise that much from the VCs, but at the same time, they just found a lot of organic traction, and hence the performance of the token and the valuation of the project. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, just a second. Ali dropped a question. Ali, would you like to switch on your mic to ask?
Yeah, sure. So my question is, like you mentioned, like lot of airdrops comes and then they pump up and they suddenly do the dumping. So like as of today, whenever any airdrop is happening or is scheduled, so how do you analyze the project? I mean, any due diligence you follow or before investing into any projects? Yeah. Or like who all are the investors, what is their track record, have they been involved into any kind of malicious activities before? So those all stuff. Maybe I'm talking in very general term, but at high level I wanted to ask any due diligence you follow before investing into airdrops. Yeah.
First of all, I'm a little bit confused for what does it mean invest in airdrops? Do you mean like invest in doing the activities for the airdrop, or like
before opting for any airdrops? That's what I mean.
Yeah, so okay, first things first, I came to another realization in crypto that at least my philosophy right now is to get the tokens for free or get the tokens with the VC valuation, and get them for free is basically to airdrop farm it, and to get into the VC valuation there you could, yeah, there are multiple ways, but it mostly involves just contributing and being useful to the project. And that has been my philosophy ever since like the 2021 started, and I think it did me well. Oh, sorry. Could you mute the mic, please? Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I would never advise buying airdrop from the market, and don't be in exit liquidity. Even though it is questionable with more established projects, it can be lucrative, but I mean, most of the times, I would never buy post airdrop token. I would only sell or hold if I have any. Yeah, but with regards to due diligence, I think I may be a little bit oversimplifying just because I've been in crypto for so long and some things are just kind of obvious. But like I said, the first things I look for is, yeah, the names of the VCs. Of course, we all probably know the top venture capitalists in the space. So Andreessen Horowitz, Paradigm, Sequoia, and yeah, many others. You can find the tier lists with the ventures all over the Twitter and kind of, yeah, make your judgment whether or not they're accurate or not. Yeah, the second one is actually the amount of money raised. So as you can see, there's not much due diligence going on, like in terms of is the project a great fit? Do they have a product market fit? Are they like doing something innovative? It's honestly, it's most of the time it's a waste of time to kind of get, for the purpose of airdrop farming, to get into deep analysis. All you care about as an airdrop farmer is the amount of money raised, who are the ventures, and what is the type of the project, so you can kind of guess the method of distribution or potential distribution based on your previous experience. And I think that's about it.
Just checking. Got it. Okay, cool. At the moment, no other question, right? Good.
Yeah. Yeah, just give me one moment to gather the thoughts. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about anticipation billing and how it all changed since 2020. I think right now, yeah, there are a couple of good examples of semi-successful anticipal campaigns. I can't call any of them successful because, well, we'll see. So one was Hop Protocol, which I think, yeah, was the best campaign to date. They outsourced the whole anticipal hunting to their community, and basically anyone could find Sibils and prove it. Like by yeah, they had a whole process for this, but basically if you find enough evidence, then you'll get, I think, like 30% of their airdrop, and they lose the airdrop. And yeah, the whole campaign was actually pretty impressive because most of the times anticipal campaigns are simply checking for the on-chain connection between the addresses, which is very easy to avoid. Like you just use centralized exchange or any other, well, you can say mixer, right? Because where there are a lot of funds, and you simply do not connect your addresses on chain. But Hope community went a lot more further. They pattern matched, they checked the activity on whether or not it makes sense. Like, of course, if person bridges in and out of the network, yeah, obviously what he's doing is just farming the activity for the protocol. But
Ori, I wonder if we could quickly go over what is Sybil attacking actually, because I guess that's helps setting the stage for how to detect it.
Oh yeah, makes sense. Yeah, Sybil attack is basically one entity pretends to be 100 different, or pretends to represent 100 or 1,000 more different entities. Basically, when you like each wallet qualifies for an airdrop, and for example, you have 100 wallets, but you're just one person. This is kind of like Sybil attacking. Yeah, and so the efforts have been ramping up, but and then after Hope came Optimism, where they also did a anti-Sybil campaign, but they did it in-house and they didn't publish any of their methodologies because to avoid basically Sybil attackers taking it, reading it and adjusting their tactics. And they also implemented criteria, which I think was an interesting step in the right direction. But when the Arbitrum airdrop came, it felt like we kind of took 10 steps backwards in terms of fighting Sibils. And now I'm even wondering if it's even worth to fight Sibils, because yeah, it feels like it's a losing battle. Maybe we should approach it somehow differently. But anyway, Arbitrum basically used the criteria that were described and discussed extensively across the whole social media. They pretty much took the criteria of the optimism and applied it, and like just took out the criteria that are a little bit niche and obscure, and just left the amount of contracts that the user interacted with, the amount of transaction he did. Basically, I think with those criteria, they kind of played into the hands of the Sibylers. And once again, they didn't do any like major cleanup. They only used, I think, on-chain connections to find Sibyl attackers. And it feels like we've taken a step back in this regard. Even though there are more and more tools popping up and well, getting almost like release ready, production ready, anti-Sibyl tools. Like one of them is Gitcoin Passport, and there are many, many more. But it feels like, yeah, the projects are not really that interested in trying to cut off the Sibyls. And I feel like where we are going as of right now is that airdrops will become such a common knowledge. Well, they already are. And farming them will be, yeah, there will be zero alpha in that. So I think the returns will just keep getting diluted, and maybe it's a good way, right? So everyone can participate. If you want to create 1,000 accounts, please do. If you want to create just one, just do.
I wanted to add some thoughts, if I may, on the topic of Sibyl attacks, because I mean, for token engineers, it's generally interesting to think about Sibyl attacks, and airdrops is a great example to see what projects did so far and what was successful to prevent it, because Sibyl attacks can be relevant in many more mechanisms we create. And that's why even if airdrops might not be a thing in 2 years from now, or maybe even next year, the topic of Sibyl attacks will definitely stay. And I remember that we have been running an initiative with Gitcoin grants to detect Sibyl attacks with people in the TE Academy. I'm happy to share also the links. We've recorded some sessions and presentations and try to address it with data science, with networks, analytics. In this case, it was less about is one identity via a series of wallets, multiple wallets, trying to take as much airdrop or tokens as possible. It's rather for Gitcoin grants, does a project collude with individuals and wallet or create wallet addresses themselves to send contributions to their project to farm the matching funds coming from Gitcoin grants. So this is a goal for Gitcoin grants, Sibyl attacking. And here, I mean, not the wallets tied to an individual are the main thing. It's rather detecting connections between wallets and connections between projects and contributor wallets. But then again, we tried several approaches, and it was exciting to see how people tried to tackle it. So from simulated annealing, a modeling technique in engineering, to network science, graph theory, and much more. But the problem is that it's not only hard to detect, so to find the patterns, it's very much that the difference between honest behavior and malicious behavior is so easy to hide. So just a tiny little tweak in the behavior makes it impossible to detect again. And this is why it's really an uphill battle to build automated detection. And what was interesting is that as a result of this process of, okay, how to automate detection, Gitcoin built the fraud detection and defense unit that combined data science, automated detection, and human evaluation. And this I think, confirms what you said about the HOPE process, that I would love to learn more actually, how it worked, how they were able to reward the community for farming they detected, because usually I mean, if they say 30% of the farmer, it was rather you detect it and get 30% on top as a reward, because I wouldn't expect that they can in any way, you know, punish farmers in taking back the tokens, right? This is not possible.
That's what actually they did. Yeah, they took the tokens from the farmers, and
oh, really?
but the way they did it, I think the people who were hunting those farmers, they still didn't get the tokens. I don't know. I stopped kind of following the story, but yeah, that's 100% how they did it.
Okay.
And more than that, then the wallets that got caught into that filter, then
Yeah.
it was used by Optimism and by Arbitrum. So they automatically excluded those wallets that got caught into Hop Anticipal filter.
But from your experience, nice that they caught these wallets, but it's so easy to create new wallets. Is it really a blow to any farmer, or is it just, yeah?
It's definitely not. Like what I'm seeing right now, I kind of wanted to discuss the state of airdrops and crypto as is right now. And like after every big airdrop, of course, there's like a wave of FOMO where people start to do, like, if there was Aptos airdrop, the next day SUI Discord was raided, and they basically had to shut down the server because there were like 200K people overnight. So the dynamic is, yeah, is kind of was kind of similar. People start doing airdrops after each big airdrop, and then they forget about it, move on. Then the next big one happens. Everyone says it's the last one, and they do a little bit of FOMO farming, and they move on. But now I think things change, partly because the market is kind of boring, and partly because where there is alpha, or like returns above the market, it will inevitably get diluted. And when I was just starting in crypto, and like looking through the community chats, people would boast like, oh, I have 10 accounts in there, and like, I'm so cool. Now it's like hundreds, 500s, like 100 accounts is like the 100 addresses. I mean, by accounts, I just mean in general addresses, or like Discord accounts or whatever. It feels like all, well, of course, I'm in my own echo bubble, but it feels like all that's happening on chain is just people literally hiring other people, writing scripts for the sole purpose of just farming everything. And layer 0 actually is a great example. Like, it feels like all of a sudden, all of the like alpha influencers, whatever, they switched from providing information to selling the shovels. Now everyone is selling airdrop farming services. They open up like manual farming services. They sell their personalized scripts to automate this. And yeah, like layer 0, I think adds 300, yeah, I think, yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's insane. They add like, I don't know, 30, 40K new wallets every day, which is, I think, is the total population of crypto right now, real active people. And yeah, and people are getting more and more sophisticated. Now everyone talks about randomization and what makes sense, from like how to pretend to be a real user. It's almost like a disease, to be honest, at this point, like kind of a mental, everyone tries to find the hidden multipliers for the airdrop. Everyone is trying to, yeah, basically come up with a way to do activity so that it looks organic. Like most of the people that I know that came through the bull run with me, they're now opening their offices, hiring people to help them. And yeah, I mean, how overheated the economy must be if the airdrop farmer is still a legitimate profession. Anyways, yeah, Mario.
Questions. You mentioned layer 0. It's the upcoming, or the rumors of the upcoming airdrop at layer 0. That's what. So
yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I drop link here.
Yep. And yeah, and their like main product is a Stargate, which is a bridge across many networks. Anyway, Mario, you wanted to ask something.
Yes, well, first, I absolutely agree with the last thing you said. Like, and also, for example, you know, now some projects that are starting with gamification in their airdrops, like they are showing, for example, how to do different things on their protocol, and they reward that thing. So in a way, they are also showing how to interact with them. So maybe that's an idea, no? So you can keep apart only the people that just wants the money and live. I don't know how you see it. I have some examples. For example, Linea now is doing with Galce, Starknet with Argent, and also Say with Block. I don't know if you know that, but what's your opinion on that?
I know those campaigns, but those are, well, pretty much airdrops are so common, and of course projects realize, and this is just the way to incentivize people to use yet another layer 2 or whatever and they will definitely reward with people with tokens. It's just whether or not it's going to be worth the time commitment. It's remains the question. But I mean, that's where airdrops are going. I feel like it's going to be more about free for all. Everyone can access, and everyone can do as many as they want. But of course, it's just going to be diluted, and projects going to use Sibillers to they're gonna use them to test the network, but also they will make the criteria harder and harder so that the person has to do more and more for the project before he gets to the whatever. And also, like another kind of way for initial distribution was through token sale, which I said projects shouldn't do, or they don't usually do. But for example, Sui, not so long ago, they went with the token sale, and but the thing is, they tried so hard to make it Sybil resistant that I think they had. So here's the fun statistics, actually. So they had 750K people in Discord, and they had 109K whitelists for the sale, and they made it so hard that in the end, they didn't even feel the 100K allocated spaces, even though it was guaranteed free money. Like you invest $45 and you got like 2.5K, I think. It was, they pretty much sell the tokens at ridiculously low valuation. And once again, it doesn't solve absolutely anything. And the most notorious Sibillers that I know, they were actually the ones that profited most from this, because they have the team set up, they know where to buy KYCs in bulk, they have anti-detect browsers ready, proxies for each, it's pretty much just helping the whales, I think, more than it kind of helps with the fair distribution, if that was the goal. I don't know what was the goal with Sui. I think they kind of got confused along the way.
Mario, could you drop a link on this case? Is there anything to, just in case?
Yeah, I don't have I mean, there are lots of links on SUSAIL.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know if someone wrote an interesting piece about it that you recommend.
It's actually funny. Airdrop hunters dismayed, the CoinDesk says. It's because nobody got rewarded for the testnet activities, and which was actually not surprising at all.
Why?
Well, usually, like the way I think about what activities are worth doing and what activities are not worth doing. So first thing that I think about is how the project can keep track of me. So of course, the blockchain naturally distributed database. Of course, everything that happens on chain is automatically written down forever. But I will always, and I will of course cover most of the touch points with the project, such as Discord. So I will, like, if I want to farm certain project, I will make sure that I'm like in their Discord, that I have at least a couple of transactions, and so on and so forth. But usually projects do not reward the activity that is not worth, like the airdrop started mostly on Ethereum. because all of the other networks are way too easy to bill, and the high gas fees naturally kind of provide a barrier. And kind of applying the same principle, I would never do any activities that do not require money, and second, do not have any barriers to entry. So testnet transactions on SUI are exactly the description of that activity. Yeah.
So no barrier, no money required, no investment required from all the participants.
And generally, I say that the testnets are useless, but not in the way, for example, the Linea does it, because they're clearly gonna drop tokens. Otherwise, they're gonna be, pretty much eaten alive by Twitter when they release a token. Yeah, usually I don't use testnet networks. The notable exception is Aptos, and they rewarded. I think they had only 2 criteria, which is why I said they came up with it overnight because of the outrage. The first criteria, if you apply to their testnet, and the second criteria, if you minted the NFT on their testnet. And this is the only exception that I remember right now that rewarded for testnet activity. But even so, to mint that NFT, you had to connect your Discord and your Gmail. So here's your barrier. And people that kind of understand how it works, like I know a person who made more than $1 million from Aptos, and he just simply spammed his 6 workers were just doing those NFT mints for a week or something.
Okay. We have another question in the chat. Saramba, would you like to ask yourself?
Sure. I was just thinking about the case that one potential intention behind airdrops could be to achieve or to increase decentralization. So presumably that would be governance airdrops. And I was wondering if that is the main intention, how would that affect the strategy around airdrops, like how to plan that so that it's hopefully successful, and how would that differ from sort of different intentions? So, for example, how would that differ if the main intention is just to create some hype so that people talk about it, or the intention is to hope to get more usage?
Okay, I think there are a lot of much deeper questions there, especially considering the usage, but I don't know what are the actual goals of the projects, only that the ones that I can speculate about. I can only speculate. And
I'm very happy with the speculative answer.
I'm thinking right now. So I think the decentralization and creation of hype, they actually have a very similar metrics. The number of holders, aka the number of just real people who will defend their bags and talk about you on Twitter. But I think generally the playbook for creating max hype is, I think it's just the main driving emotion of the whole crypto is FOMO, which is fear of missing out. And if the decentralization was not so much of a focus, I'm struggling here, but what creates hype is a feeling of FOMO. So that could be either that all of your friends got airdrops or that someone got an insane airdrop. It all pretty much comes down to the number.
So that's so interesting because, sorry, I thought.
Go ahead, please.
Because what I was thinking is that if the goal was centralization, then you would want to try to choose the allocation in such a way that it goes as much as possible to people who will actually be interested in participating in governance. So on one hand, the people who would be able to understand the potential governance related decisions. So have maybe higher level of interest and understanding in some of the potential technical matters of the project. But on the other hand, you might want to have some sort of association is a bad word, but thinking in more long term. So not people who will just want to dump the tokens straight away, because then that they can go to maybe to whales, so that the centralization goal here wouldn't work. But to people who do value the tokens just because they value having the say on it, and they value that in longer term. So I'm guessing that how you might think about choosing who should get the tokens, and in a way, in what weight, could be the type of participation, length, or things like that. So some other factors rather than just them having some other tokens. So that's where my thoughts were going. That like the method of choosing who and how many tokens might be different here.
I mean, what you're saying, I mean, that is the question exactly. Like, how would you deliver the tokens into the hands of those who are interested in governance and so on? Every project asks that. Of course, every project wants to deliver the airdrop to the strongholders, people who will actually participate in governance. But the question remains, how do you design so that the tokens go to those people? And you kind of risk, there's like either you are being too general and you allow, like too general with the criteria and you allow a lot of Sibils, or you're being super niche and you cut out a lot of legitimate users, or even like you being super niche and it also creates kind of this distrust that maybe you chose those criteria to reward the insiders or something like that. So the criteria and like, of course, projects try to like attract those that are interested, for example, in governance. Let's talk about governance. So they used, let's even take optimism, right? So one of the criteria was the governance usage. The other one was how much the person like donated on Gitcoin. And in the end, it just makes airdrop farmers vote on governance proposals and donate to Gitcoin projects so that they be liable for those criteria. And I mean, it was actually like funny story. So a lot of people wrote bots to vote on Snapshot automatically, and like they just don't care what the vote is as long as the person voted. But then I think ENS, they created a fake proposal and they said like with the large, the heading was, do not vote if you are human. And basically everyone who voted there got caught into Anticipal tracking, and other projects use that list as well, as far as I know. But I mean, yeah, the idea is you create the criteria to attract the right people, and then all that happens is that everybody will be just doing those activities to pass as that person.
So if I can just mention one thing, because for example, if you are thinking about increasing liquidity, and you were specifically thinking about some liquidity pools, then that is sort of so much easier, because if you're interested in liquidity, you're interested also in more trading, so you're not really worried as much if people straight away dump here. So you can just give airdrops to whoever holds the liquidity, maybe with some different amount depending on how long they bond their liquidity. But this is just so much easier in terms of how to align the strategy for airdrops with the goal.
So there's there is one clear problem with your approach, is that, okay, so we are like in crypto, we're supposed to be a little bit socialistic or whatever, and this way that the whales who have more capital, they will get even richer, right? Because they can farm the liquidity with large sizes. And
I totally
that's
agree
exactly
with you. But that's why I was saying that if here the goal is to increase liquidity and the decentralization is not a goal here, I guess if you have the two goals, then yep, it becomes so much more difficult.
Oh yeah, sure. But even like even if you reward people like based, for example, on time-weighted liquidity, I don't like this is if you reward retroactively, it doesn't mean that the people who are farming with size are gonna stay. And if you return, like if you say in advance that there will be an airdrop for liquidity provision, then it's just liquidity farming, just hidden one. My point being is that if you want to incentivize liquidity provision, then you're better off not airdropping, but, well, I mean, turning off the rewards for farming. And yeah,
that is a really cool point. I was specifically thinking about osmosis and their different ways of adding the rewards in case the fees were not enough, and very often for smaller pools the fees were not enough. So there could be like the regular rewards, or quite a few projects had airdrops. So they were sort of almost like a standard thing that like quite many pools had. But I see your point that that might not be the best way to achieve exactly that goal.
Regarding liquidity farming, I just wanted to send you one sorry. I'll try to find article about Tapioca DAO. It's a omni-chain lending protocol, but they talk a lot, and their founder talks a lot about liquidity mining and how the pitfalls and downfalls and all of the mercenary capital that comes with it, and so on and so forth. And maybe it's a good read. It's just, yeah, I can't find it right now, but here's the project. And the way they tackle the issue with liquidity farming is, well, I'm not sure if it's going to actually tackle it, but they, instead of simply rewarding with tokens, they provide, if you lock your capital for a certain amount for a certain period of time, you get a call option, which is like -5 or -50% of the current market price. And so they basically force you to, first of all, they get some money back, and protocol gets protocol-owned liquidity. But I'm still, to be honest, I'm still not clear how different is it really from the liquidity mining. But that's the whole other. Oh yeah, that's a great article. Thank you. Yeah, actually, this guy, Blockmates, he also has an article about Tapioca. So yeah, good blog.
I wonder, I throw in another way of to approach it. Maybe you have an immediate idea how to smash it, but actually the techie group recently, you might have seen it on our Discord, was working on utility token, and their model is that the airdrop is actually not the tradable token. It's rather, you could say, an option, and it has an expiry date, and you can exchange based on value add. And this value add is either predefined or it's even not clear, so that no one can prepare, right? And this way you incentivize value added in the future, not incentivize what you did in the past. So you already mentioned this difference. I just think ultimately, the airdrop to me feels much more like a community activation and a measure to gain visibility. And then it's always a balance, right? To be not too exclusive. I mean, exclusive always sounds we want to honor our community and value our community, and no one should be exclusive. But any airdrop is probably not even worth the time invested if you don't land at a certain amount of active participation. And if you're addressing 200 only and can't even guarantee that they provide any valuable contribution, it's probably not even worth the time invested for planning.
Yeah, and with regards to your first point about like devising a criteria for contribution, I think it's all great on paper, right? But when it comes to practice, first of all, the big projects, and right now I'm mostly focused on big projects, to be honest. And big projects, they simply don't have that luxury, I think, because it's so hard when you have 700K people. How would you be able to track the contribution of each and everyone? And also, I think there is a potential, it's not necessarily have to happen, but there is potential for bias, right? That the team is assigning what is considered a valuable contribution and what is not, and some people may disagree with that. And I feel like if you the more the more you go like deeper into the forest and trying to figure out all of the ways everything can go wrong, the more you think, maybe we should just distribute to everyone and forget about it and just move on with the development and don't waste lots of, because I think, it is a very hard and complex mission to like devise the criteria, to define the contributions, to check those contributions. It like creates a whole workload, whole separate work stream, which can be, I don't know, depending on what are the priorities of the project, maybe that's not the most important thing on their mind. Maybe they just want to build, they just want to focus on building and get the airdrop out of the way and the initial distribution out of the way. And like there were a lot of creative ways to kind of tackle the problems. Like, for example, I was writing about a gyroscope. They did like a testnet games where you had to, well, I mean, it's all too familiar now, but it was basically a campaign where you had to prove that you're not a Sibyl. And the way they did it, they had like lots of different criterias. One was, for example, POAP, proof of attendance from live conferences. Other ones were like you could connect Coinbase KYC or like another decentralized KYC, or you could, and then you had to, for example, join the Discord server at a certain time, and then they opened another Discord server. You had to jump there and write what makes Ethereum such an important invention or something like that. Well, obviously, like, and they gave like 5 minutes to everyone. That's a fun way, but once again, it's not feasible at scale. Like small projects, they can have fun for sure, and they can do a lot of creative stuff with the anti-Sibylling. But I'm trying to think about how to solve this problem. I'm not even trying to think of how to solve it. I'm just mostly I'm thinking for my own financial gain, how the game is going to change, how the meta is going to change. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more I feel like I just don't see a way other than just diluting the rewards. I saw this this term thrown around by Gitcoin Passport, which is like cost of forgery, which is basically they have the Gitcoin Passport where you have to connect like social networks, and then you get a quote, like, for example, how much does one Twitter account cost, and then like how much Facebook, blah blah blah, and then you kind of come to the number how much the Sibyl attacker invested in one certain address. And I feel like that's what's it going to come to. That it's almost not worth doing it because the rewards are so small. And yeah.
So the Gitcoin route would be increase the costs of farming to an extent that makes it not worthwhile anymore, and this way reduce farming overall, right? This is one approach. And the other one would be that, what's the second one? Is it also that airdrops might decrease and the role of airdrops might decrease? What do you think?
I think that the other one is simply airdrop to everyone, no Sibyl hunting campaigns, announce or like hint. Of course, like not all the projects can announce in advance because of legal reasons, but just let everyone participate as much as they want with pretty much equal information across the board. And yeah, just basically distribute to everyone and make it so common knowledge. And so that, and this way, once again, the rewards are going to get diluted so much that it's almost not worth doing it unless you are the real user. I think it's just going to be like a loyalty programs in supermarkets or something like that. You wouldn't Sibyl one, right?
Okay. We have 7 minutes left. Time to ask your final questions. I think Mario dropped a note in the chat a while ago.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually not familiar with what was the distribution of IOTA.
Okay.
I stopped. Yeah,
I
sorry,
explain super fast if you want. IOTA, what it's doing is like creating another two networks. Okay, so it's very easy. Just take your IOTA, okay, and with that you earn rewards. Like for example, they finish with one network, and now we are with the last one. But like 70% of the people stake their tokens. Like 70% was staked, and I mean, for example, that can show that the people that trust IOTA is not like more compromised with the protocol. Maybe that in the long run, for example, I've been with the tokens staked for more than 1 year in my case, for example. So it's a different approach. And I don't know what I ask is like, for example, compare between all the approaches and check if one is better than another, for example, are at retaining people in the long run. I don't know how you see it.
What was the approach itself? I didn't catch that.
Sorry, just take your tokens, okay? So you get rewards in the other networks, okay? Like, for example, the other network is Shimmer. So now I have Shimmer, thanks.
So kind of like Cosmos airdrops, right? Where you stake Cosmos. And yeah, sure. But the thing is, like, I haven't heard anything about Cosmos airdrops since June, I think, when one whale farmed like, I don't know, some insane amount of supply. But to me, like, I don't want to say bad things, maybe you like IOTA, but to me, those projects are not really relevant that much because I feel like, yeah, I don't even know what's happening with IOTA. I remember I invested in 2017. That's it. And I never heard about it again. But yeah, I mean, staking and distributing rewards, this may work like for Cosmos or for Polkadot. And this, but the thing is, there are not that many retail, so there are not much attention towards those kind of mechanics, I think, and for this reason as well, I haven't studied too much about, yeah, like what is the retention rate, what is the behavior of people receiving airdrops for like staking Cosmos, for example. Yeah, but I am staking actually Cosmos in hopes of a CA airdrop. Just a little. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay. So then I'd say thank you so much, Ori, for taking the time. It was really insightful. And I think we can build on a lot of topics we've just touched on, and yeah, have follow-up calls around Sybil attacks, around success metrics, and hope to see you again in our community. And for everyone who's interested, join Saremba. Her link is in the chat. Saremba, feel free to drop it again to continue with the study group discussing game theory, introduction to game theory, and see you again at one of our upcoming events. You can find all of them at tokenengineering.net. And thanks for today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, thanks everyone. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, Ori.
All right,
Talk
have a good day.
soon. You
Bye-bye.
too. Thanks, everyone.